Hi, everyone, and a massive welcome to the second episode here on InfoSec Live of the CISO Mentor with industry leader Ido Ganor. In this session, Ido is going to explore the difference between operational security, which is the way most of enterprise cybersecurity operates today, towards strategic security, why CISOs and CIOs should transform their organizations to strategic security, and how, importantly, speaking the executive language can help this transition happen, and how this will make cybersecurity a potential non-issue in their organizations. But before we begin and bring Ido on, for those that are new to the channel, my name's Simon Lindstedt. I'm the host and founder of the InfoSec Live community. And by sharing stories and best practice over the last few months, it's led to over 8,000 hours of our content being viewed here on YouTube by you, our amazing subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement. And if you'd like to support the wider InfoSec Live community, or indeed buy me a cheeky decaf coffee, we do have a few ways you can show your appreciation. First up, the ability to purchase super stickers in the YouTube chat if you'd like your question bumped up to the top, and 3 tiers of membership allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. And before I bring Ido on, I just want to say a massive thank you to a few people I've seen in the audience today who I haven't spoke to for a long time. Jed, great to see you here. We're catching up this evening. I'm looking forward to it. Shane, thank you for tuning in. And Chimeria, it's been far too long. Let's catch up on a call soon. So enough of me waffling. Let's get this stinger played and bring Ido on. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good morning for everyone in the US.
Apologies. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Wherever you are.
So how are you, Ido?
Fine. We are great. Everything is good.
Good.
And it seems that adversaries are not going anywhere. So
it certainly does. Yeah, absolutely. So last week, or the week before last, we dug into what the first day or the first week or two is like for a CISO in their role, which I think from the feedback we've had, everyone found really, really insightful and very, very helpful. Just talk us through what we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, I think that one of the issues that we've been seeing in many cases is that the difference between operational security and strategic security. And that's something that I've been seeing again and again. And I think there is some misunderstanding. And actually, even the concept of strategic security and operational security is not always totally clear. And that's part of what I would like to clarify that and discuss about operational security, compare this to strategic security, and say why we need to make this shift. What's the reasons for us to make this shift? Where we need to focus. So that's the idea behind this session. And again, there are lots of details, but we'll get to it in a few minutes. So
okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to let you begin. Please begin, Ido, and I'm going to sit back and learn today.
Okay. So speaking about operational security, what does it mean, operational security or strategic security? So actually, I did an interesting exercise just about an hour ago. Sorry, 1 second.
No problem. I'll have a slurp of my coffee while you do that.
Okay, so I just went to ChatGPT and I asked, what's the difference and what is operational security and what's the difference between operational security and strategic security, to see what's the new AI machine, actually what it has to tell us about this. And surprisingly, it has actually, first of all, I urge everyone to do that. Just go to ChatGPT and any question that you have, just put it in and get the answers, because I must admit that the answers are much better than I would expect. They are far from where they should be, but they are much better than expected. So if you are really novice, Jen, use it.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. But specifically here, I have it on here on my other screen about, and I won't read all what it answered about the difference between operational security and strategic security. But to summarize it, it speaks about operational security is what they call OPSEC, and enterprise strategic are both important components. That's what ChatGPT says. And then it says it's the enterprise OPSEC, which is the operational security, is focused on the day-to-day activities and procedures that organizations employ to protect its assets. I'll get to that, infrastructure and information. And this includes the day-to-day activities and so forth. On the other end, enterprise strategic is focused on developing and implementing an overall security strategy that aligns with the organization's goals and objectives. And then identifying risk and so forth. So all in all, from a 40,000 feet, this is right. It's correct. This is operational security and this is strategic security. But let's get further to really understand what do we mean by speaking about operational and strategic security. I think it all boils down. I was thinking, if you ask any CEO of mid-size, even large-size companies, you will ask, who takes care of cybersecurity, of cyber risks? The answer in most of the cases would be, we have a CISO. Okay. Who the CISO reports to? Reports to the CIO. Why is that? Why does he report to the CIO? Why doesn't he report to you? Because it's a technical matter, it's a technical issue. The nature of risk, the cyber risk, it's a technology issue. So that's the problem. It's a technical issue. The CISO, part of the CIO department, deals with the issue. And then you ask the same CEO, you say, did you or the board of directors, did you ask the CISO or the CIO a very simple question? Are we safe? That's it. Yeah. Just tell me, are we safe?
Yeah.
So in most cases, the answer will be yes, of course. Okay. And then what was the answer? What did they answer you? Then it will start to mumble and say different things because there is no answer for that. They do not have the answer for that. And why they do not have the answer for that? Because they are focused on technology, because they consider cyber risk as a technology matter.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about operational security is actually dealing with there are a couple of elements which identify that very well. And let me give you kind of a short story, which actually last week I have a technical team here, which is ethical hackers, and I asked this technical team, give me a list of your successful penetrations in your latest penetration test that you have conducted. We provide different assessments and audits and so forth. So here's what they answered. They gave me two examples. Actually, they gave more than two, but I will just point to two examples of issues that they just found out recently in penetration testing. Ethical hackers. Number one answer was proxy shell. A proxy shell is an exchange server vulnerability that was introduced back in 2021, 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and is still existing in most organizations. When we go to any organization, this specific vulnerability, which requires manual patching, it's not an automatic patching, it's a manual patching, is not conducted by most organizations. And what they told me, so we usually we exploit this vulnerability and we take control of the network of the company. And they say, the technical team, the ethical hackers technical team, it's simply because companies are lack of processes.
Yeah.
That's what the technical team is telling me when they're trying about this specific. The processes for manual patch is not there.
Yeah.
So vulnerability from 2 years ago still exists, and bingo, they can penetrate the company. Another example. They actually gave me another example, which is about Windows. Windows have a vulnerability for a few years already about IPv6.
Yeah.
The IPv6 address, and again, forgive me for being a bit technical, but just to understand the issues there. And this vulnerability is companies keep using the defaults of Windows with the IPv6 instead of implementing a specific DNS solution. And what happens is that there are no processes to close these vulnerabilities. So these vulnerabilities exist. So again, technologies speak about lack of processes.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we're heading towards the big problem here is there's such a massive focus on the tech stack and the tech within an organization that the people and the processes get left behind a little bit, Ido.
Exactly. That's exactly the case. We are all focused on vulnerabilities. We are all focused on closing the symptoms. So when these guys are coming up and we provide a full report for the penetration test, and the report says, here, you have this vulnerability and this vulnerability and these are technical vulnerabilities. And the companies go, and let's assume, although we found out not always the case, but let's assume they closed these vulnerabilities. But they did not solve the problem. They solved the symptom.
Yeah.
The problem is how these vulnerabilities got in the first place.
And whose responsibility is it to patch them? And when was it done? And when does it need to be looked at again, I suppose?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there a process well written and well implemented? Is there an auditor that audits that the processes are well implemented? Once you will close the root cause, you will reduce the problems. And this is exactly what we call operational security. Operational security says it's a technology's problem. It's a technical people need to deal with it. It's let's deal with the symptoms, but we are not dealing actually with the root cause. And we are focusing on putting more and more money into technologies. Now, the interesting and the funny thing about that is that in those organizations that we find these cases, they put 15% of the IT budget into security.
Yeah.
They have a firewall, they have an NAC, they have a mail filtering, they have all the type of technologies that you just want, and we still find these vulnerabilities there.
It's worrying, isn't it?
So, absolutely, so the issue here is that the focus should really be on the processes and operational security, and that's what most of the companies do. They focus on the day-to-day activities, they focus on the day-to-day technologies, they focus on closing the symptoms, but that's operational security. That's not strategic security. And when I say, or we believe in strategic security, the point here, let's focus on the root cause. Let's focus on the processes. Again, it does not mean let's not deploy technologies. Of course, we need technologies. The technologies are here and to help us, but we need processes to manage these technologies. And now, in order to deal with processes, you cannot change and make processes in place if the management of the company is not part of that.
And this seems to be where the problem is. So, as you've rightly pointed out, 15% of IT spend is used for budget. You've got misaligned views on what needs to be done, and it sounds like the actual leadership of the organization think that operational security is the best way forward. Is that due to lack of education on their part? Is it a lack of leadership? A leadership failing in the industry where we're not educating the CEO and the board members, or is that a very difficult task, Ido?
It's actually a combination. In my opinion, it's a combination. It's a combination of first of all, management has enough. The CEO has enough to deal with. Yeah. So now we need to bother with another thing. Rather it's better that the CIO will deal with it. I can trust the CIO. That's number one. And on the other end, everyone believes that it's really a technology matter, and do not. So I do think that it's a sincere belief that it's a technology matter, but there is no realization, a wake up call that no, it's not a technology matter. It's a management matter. It's a processes. It's a change of processes. Let's look for a second at the CRM industry.
Yeah.
Before Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce just flourished about 20, 25 years ago, CRM was a huge problem in companies. They were doing sales. Sales is here for many, many years, for 100 years already. But the sale processes were not built properly, and this is why no one knew what's going on.
Yeah.
So you can find out in the sales process that the sales administrator was calling a customer to ask a question about something, and 5 minutes later the salesperson was calling the same guy asking the same question because they were not synchronized between them. Once you have put a CRM solution in place, a Salesforce type solution, then everyone is in sync. Before you are picking up the phone to call this customer, you look at the CRM, you say, oh, the administrator just asked this question, here's the answer. So I don't need to call.
Yeah.
So that's exactly processes. And what Salesforce did to the CRM, Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics and other solutions, what they did in focusing on the processes, that's, in my opinion, what should be done in the security in order to move to strategic security.
Yeah.
And strategic security, as I define it, it's a management problem, it's a concrete problem that the management should realize, and it's a processes issues. And once these three are understood, then we will be in a better shape. Now, why in my opinion it's also the trend, and why it's moving on in actually happening in front of us. I think there are a few indications that show this, but before getting to that, let me just share with you I've been in the computer industry for over 30 years, but in the last 18 years I've been in cybersecurity, in security. Actually, 18 years ago there was no even the word cyber, but I've been for 18 years in security. And when I started IPV Security, the consulting firm, we were actually offering risk surveys, penetration testing, and I was walking, a door after door to door, knocking in doors of companies, asking to conduct just a penetration test, and the answer for that was, sorry, we don't need, thank you. No. You can't believe how many no's I got 18 years ago.
I can. I've knocked on doors selling things myself, and I'm very used to the word no, Ido, so I can imagine.
Yes, so that was 18 years ago. About 10 years ago, people start to realize, and we started off with the CISO as a service. We started off in the CISO, and the main focus, by the way, we were the first in our local area here offering this service, CISO as a service. And the main focus of the CISO was to actually manage the closure of the findings of our risk surveys. So this is part of why company asked us to become a CISO. There was no definition of a CISO, but the way it was, it's very simple. We conducted a risk survey, and half a year later, I came up and said, have you fixed the findings? No, we didn't. And then one company said, you know what? Maybe we should hire you to manage the process of fixing the findings that you gave us. Yeah. So I said, bingo, yes, now I'm moving to retainer rather than one-time fees for risk surveys.
But there's still a huge issue there with small to medium-sized businesses, because they haven't got anywhere to go to which is affordable in their eyes. So they get led to believe that the first thing they need to do is a penetration test because their insurance companies told them to, which is about as useful as a chocolate teapot, because they've got no resources or knowledge within the organization to fix any issues that come up. It's still an issue, but maybe not so much at the higher end of organizations.
Right. But it is changing.
Yeah.
It is. We do see a change. And what happens, and the way I believe that if we look at the CISOs, still today, many organizations have CISOs or CISO as a service or vCISO. What type of CISO? Again, there are still lots of companies which have, as you just mentioned, have no CISO, no understanding, no education on security. True. But those that have a CISO, 90% or 95% of the CISOs are technical people, people that are focused on operational security and not strategic security. Now, why do I believe that we all need to move to strategic security? There are a few reasons for that. First, I think that today we are at 15% 15% from the IT budget goes into security in many organizations. Now it's growing from here to here to here. It's growing. It has been just about, I don't know, a few years ago it was 1%. Now it's 15%, and it's still growing. But on the other end, companies are starting to fed up. How much money still we need to keep on putting in, and no change. We keep on putting money, and we still keep getting attacks.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The number two is, so the whole industry is actually fed up of these breaches and this news that's coming up again and again. The second element, I think, is also that if you look at all industries, new industries in the last 100 years, every new industry has a certain stages that it follows. It started off with the early adapters or with the innovators, and then the early adapters. And once you get the early adapters, then you get to the early majority. That's around the timing that you have hundreds and thousands of companies that starts and tries to provide services, and then starts consolidation.
This sounds familiar. I mean,
Indeed.
yeah. So where are we now? We've got a little bit more growth still on the products left before the consolidation starts, do you think?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. In my opinion, within the next 5 years, there's going to be major consolidation. The move to strategic security, there's another thing which I want to mention about the strategic security, but yes, the moving to strategic security, consolidation in the industry, and the fed up of the industry that we need to start focusing on really reducing the risk, not just putting operational team and operational technologies. And by the way, I think that the first very good indication for that came up just now. I just this month on the 9th, and I think it was on the 15th, the SEC in the US just put two new rules in front of public companies.
They have, yeah.
And in these rules, they require that at least one person in the board of directors will demonstrate knowledge and understanding of cybersecurity.
I've heard companies are getting around that by, say they've got someone on the board who's got a little bit of IT knowledge. They send them on a quick course and then tick the box, which isn't really helping, is it?
But true. But this makes a change. I can tell you that we've been recently, just in the last few weeks, in the last month, we've been starting to get requests to assist board of directors, to educate board of directors, to put good processes in place. So there is a change in the industry. The industry is shaking.
Yeah.
And I think that this is part of why I believe that within the next 5 years, things will be changed. And let me share with you one more thing. CISOs, in 5 years from today, it's going also to change from 90% technical CISOs to 10% business CISOs. It's going to change. It's going to be 80% business CISOs and 20%. And any CISO that will keep on being on the technical side and will not shift to the business side will probably not continue to be a CISO.
I think you're absolutely right. I've just lost my voice. Hold on. We've got a comment come up, a question come up from Lee at Your Cybersec. Do you think that the industry vertical, finance, retail, aerospace, etc., will impact the speed of consolidation in each area? It's a good question.
Yes, indeed. It's a very good question, and I think that overall, I think that the impact and the change is cross industries. I don't think it's specifically based on a specific vertical, this or that. Obviously, financial industry.
The regulation helps, doesn't it? I think drive.
Absolutely, the public companies, as we just spoke about. So a public company does drive it forward. Now, another element. Now, why is this going all in all to change this whole industry? Because it starts off with the big companies, with the public companies, exactly, and it goes down until the supply chain, because they require the supply chain to deal. Because obviously, a small company, it's hard to put all of the controls and all of the processes in place. But once it is required by the big companies, you have no other option. You must comply with
and
it.
Also, if you want to do business with those bigger companies, you're going to have the same problem as a smaller business, aren't you? You're going to need to adhere to the same guidelines and principles that they are, perhaps.
Absolutely. And bear in mind that processes, it's something that any company, it doesn't matter what's the size of the company, any company can implement processes. It's just a matter of set of mind. Once your set of mind is to understand that you need to focus on the processes, you can do it.
Yeah.
And it's possible. Now, the issue today is that the focus is on the technologies. And what about procedures? By the way, many that are required to comply, or they are ISO compliant, or any, you will find, you ask, do you have procedures? Yes, of course we have procedures. Show me your procedures. Here they get dust on the shelf. Let's get them and see what. Why are you not implementing them?
Well, no, because no one reviews them. That's why, because they've just been sat there for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and when you ask them when did you write them? Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of people in the comments, Jed and Chimaria, have both said that they'll see the rise of GRC, or the need for GRC functions and services as well. And I think that all ties in with everything you're talking about, doesn't it, Ido?
Indeed. But the major change that I believe is happening is that GRC actually speaks about governance, risk, compliance, exactly about that.
Yeah.
But the realization of the management that GRC is a core element of security, and it's the management issue to enforce it, that's the key. Because today, when a CISO reports to the CIO, he has no authority to enforce things over the IT team or any team on the company.
Yeah.
Once it's part of the management will help the CISO enforce this, and the management also will ask for answers. They want to get answers for, are we safe? Are we not? Tell us what changed from last month. Are we more safe or less safe? Where we are today compared to where we were before. Where we were before. So that's part of what we have been seeing.
I think it's the same as showing my age now, but if you look back at any type of planning, I suppose business planning in particular, if you use the SMART methodology, you can apply that to these principles and these problems as well. It's got to be specific, it's got to be measurable, it's got to be attainable, it's got to be realizable, and I can't remember the last one, time bound, isn't it? I think realistic and time bound. And a lot of the problem seems to be that no companies have the structure in place to monitor and make sure that what they've put in place is being updated. And you mentioned it earlier, the word auditor, someone to audit the policies, make sure that they make sense and make sure they don't need any changes. Do you think that's where the real pain points are for organizations?
Yes, indeed. I think that companies, processes, especially in small companies, when you speak about process, they immediately connect it to bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That will give us bureaucracy. We are not a governmental organization. We are more agile. It's against our thinking, our culture. But that's specifically exactly what culture security should be about.
Yeah.
Culture security is not about more awareness of employees. Of course, more awareness should be done. But security culture is the processes. Focus on the processes. That's the strategic security. Now, the change for that, again, it's a step. It's not an overnight matter. Obviously, I do realize that changing every process, it's really tough for any organization. We've been doing it with organizations. Sometimes it may take years to really make the change of the processes. But once you are able to clear one process and then the second process, then you find out that you really resolve root cause of issues and you reduce your risk big time.
We've got a couple of comments. Let me just bring them up because I want to try and keep this interactive with the audience. Ilmaz, thanks for jumping in. Companies need proper strategic alignment processes in place. I think that's pretty much spot on everything you've been saying the last few minutes. And a quick question from Immersive Beats. Let me move you to the top so I get blocked. Here we go. Will AI play a big role in the future within these policies and procedures, and as a whole within cyber, to automate certain processes and policies? It's a good question.
Yeah, it is very good question, and I've been hearing this quite a bit, especially recently with the ChatGPT and so forth. I think that AI has a very important role in our lives for the next years. There's no question. It's actually, I'm, many people much smarter than I am are actually saying it, and it is true. But I do think that at the end of the day, even AI is based on data which is coming up from people.
Yeah.
It will not replace, it may replace some elements, a certain percentage of elements that we as human beings are able to conduct. But it does not replace what, at the end of the day, we can do. An auditor that audits a policy needs really to follow step by step and see that the audit is conducted properly. So again, if the audit is simple, just sending a questionnaire, getting answers, and based on the answers, it's not even AI. It's a simple computerized system. But this is not an audit. An audit is really to take it steps further. An audit is really to look at the processes, to understand what's the responsibility of the person that implements the firewall, and then to dig down and see what did he do, how did he do it, did he follow the procedure. So again, AI is it will reduce a lot of efforts that we need to put from human resources. But I don't think, in my belief, it's not going to replace, it's going to reduce.
Well, I think let's compare it to the calculator. So I was at school, I think, when the calculator came out, and yes, it did make a massive difference, but it certainly didn't get rid of mathematicians and accountants, did it?
Indeed, and let's take it even one step further. When you get to the shop and you see the price of one product, and there is a competitive product on the right side, and this one costs you 10 sterlings, and this one costs you 15 sterlings, but this one has 100. The units are different, obviously, because this one is 100 libra and the other one is 150. Yeah. Then you need to start calculating. Now you don't take the calculator every second. Say, hey, what's the price per unit? You still need your brain to do.
It's all right. I've got one on my phone, luckily. Yeah.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we still need to bear in mind. Think about Waze. I'm old-fashioned. Whenever I go and I put Waze, when I look for direction, Waze helps.
It's amazing.
Big time.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I always look at the map. I always want to know if I'm going north or south or east, where I'm going to.
But that's our age. That's our age, Ido. Because
yes.
I look at my eldest son, who's 23. He wouldn't know what to do with a map if it slapped him in the face. He's been so used to technology directing him with sat-nav. I mean, ironically, one of my first jobs when I was 19, I did some courier work, which meant I was delivering parcels around the United Kingdom. And I had a whole, glove box full of A to Z maps of different cities. And I literally, you had to turn page after page whilst driving, trying to find out where you were going. But it does give you, along with the orienteering I did as a scout when I was younger, it does give you that sense of direction, which I think is missing. But that takes us on to another irrelevant point, which is the one about when no one really understands how anything works anymore, which is a big problem in society. And for me, this happened when, if you remember the old Betamax and VHS video players when they came out, when you got those delivered, you didn't really get a manual. You had to work out how to use this thing to record. And then a few years later, I think it was in the 80s, they brought out Video Plus, which meant all you had to do was put in the 6-digit number next to your favorite TV program, and it would all do it for you. Ever since that day, we've taken ourselves out of the understanding of how technology works. I think I'm rambling on a different subject, and I'll let you get back on track now.
No, absolutely, but with cyber, it's very similar. By the way, it's not different. Now, again, I think yes, the new technologies, AI, and new developments. I'm using Waze daily. Of course, we all use it.
Yeah.
But it does not mean that we need not to remember the base orientation, because we all find out that due to sometimes Waze does not work. Sometimes it does not operate. What do you do then? You are getting lost if you have no idea what direction you are going through. But now with the cyber, you also need to put the processes in place, and you need to know which processes are more important and which processes are less important, so you can focus on the ones which are more important for you, and that's specifically for the company. Now, once you have been deploying processes, I think the next stage really is how you discuss and how you talk with your management. What's the language? We've talked about the executive language, what we call. So again, executive do not care about technology. They care about, are we safe? They want answer for this simple question: are we safe or not? And in regards to that, I think that CISOs needs to be able to answer a good answers for this question, and to resonate it with good facts that will help them to demonstrate what's required in order to reduce the risk, to become more safe. And that's part of what I call the executive lingo. Now, we did, I believe, last time, and also in some other occasions, I've been talking about assets. Assets are business assets, not technology assets. So once you speak with your management, don't speak about your Exchange server. Speak about your data that they care about, confidentiality. So talk about assets, which are assets for the executive management. That's number one. The second one is about threats and risks. Remember what threats are and what risks. Risk is measured in money. It measured for the management of the company. They care if we are going to lose 10 million or 100 million in dollars. They care about. They do not care if our Exchange server is down. They want to understand what does it mean. So we need to differentiate. Now, again, when you speak to your management, use this language. Speak about the processes. That's important because you want them to resonate with you. You need to get their support on the day-to-day activities, and you want also them to approve your budget. So in order for all of these pieces to come in the right place, you need really to speak the language. You need to move to strategic security, and once you do this, both of them, then the bottom line result, you reduce the breach probability from the market industry 66% to few percent, and you reduce the time to recover from 20 days, which is the market average, to few hours and no damage. And this is the bottom line, what companies are interested in. And that's what we call making cybersecurity a non-issue. If we are at a few percent breach probability and very, very low few hours recovery time, then we are making security a non-issue. And that's what will, in my opinion, together with that, will become the consolidation we talked about.
And do you think that will help? I mean, I'll call you Corey if that's okay, Ilmaz, that you've put the chat message up there. Just have to do my hang on thing. Said he's been super surprised to see giant organizations that have been in place for over a few decades, but are still more of a 30, 40-year-old startups, even in technology space. And when you look at the situation, I'll take it off, you see that the strategy and the company vision isn't propagated effectively down the chain. And no wonder cybersecurity is also then not aligned. There's got to be processes in place, and he could not agree more. I mean, it's horrifying to think that organizations are still looking at it that way, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And I'm always surprised to see it again and again. That's true. But you know, I have discussions with many people, and for people to understand that they need to make this shift and focus on the process, it's not an easy shift.
No.
We were all educated to focus on the technology. I studied mathematics and computer science. I'm a technologist on my background.
If you weren't a vendor, I'd say it's the vendor's fault for pumping out the fact that everyone needs shiny tools and widgets before they need anything else. What do you reckon?
Yeah. By the way, yes, indeed. For the vendors, it's a great thing. But my point is that it's getting to an end. Whether it's this year, next year, 3 years from today, it's getting to an end, because how much more you can pour into security technologies until you realize that you cannot run your business because you're putting so much. By the way, I just participated this week in a security committee of one of the organizations that we work with. And in this security committee, they were actually saying, hey, we need to stop looking at a security budget as part of the IT budget.
Yeah.
We need to put it on a separate budget,
100%.
which is not related to the IT, it's related to the risk,
Yeah.
which is absolutely true, by the way. It's a very good point that they've made. And that's what they are doing. They are shifting the security budget out of the IT. We don't care if it's 5%, 10%, 20%, or 30%. That's the good thing about it. It should be a standalone. It's not related to how much we have in IT. It's related to how much risk we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on the other end, we also need to remember that there is a limit to how much money company can put into security.
Yeah.
So it's not an endless number. It is. So how much more time will pass until companies will start spending less, because they are limited.
Well, it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, which is what the industry's been doing for the last 7 or 8 years anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Now what we, part of us supporting on the processes, that's part of why we've built CISOteria, as we demonstrated in the first episode.
Have you got time to give because I'm just thinking the audience that we've got watching today is completely different from who was watching the last time. Have you got 5 minutes just to give a quick overview of what it does? I know this isn't a sales pitch, and I've put you on the hop a little bit here, but might just tie in everything together that you've been talking about.
Yeah, let me just I
you can tell this wasn't set up, can't you?
Let me just actually no, I don't
well, that's okay. We can say to everyone who's watching, let me go on the website and get a link in case anyone wants to check it out, because it is a powerful platform. Let me get it on here.
1 second, maybe I can arrange something.
So for a bit of background, Ido and I met last year at Info Security Europe, which was held at the Excel Centre in London. And for me, I'd only been in the industry about just over a year. The other experience of a conference for me was RSA, where I heard an awful lot about shift left and zero trust, but not really anything else. I arrived at Info Security Europe last summer, hoping for something different. And I've got to be honest, it wasn't, apart from Ido's stand, where with my background in governance, risk and compliance, I was very excited about what he'd put together and been working on. So that's how we originally met, and why I keep inviting him back on to talk about it, because I was so impressed with it at the time.
Yeah, I'll see. Maybe I will be able, but I do want to show you just one thing. One thing here. I just got my MFA, so
excellent. I just while you're doing that, the comment from Corey: security manufacturers, sales and marketing have done a bad job over the past at least 15, 20 years, creating jargons that led to more confusions, when what we really need is more clarity, less confusion and less stress. I could not agree more, Corey.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. But by the way, I do want
and while Ido's doing that, if anyone's watching who's based in Florida, I'm over in Florida next week in Tampa Bay on Thursday for a CISO event. We've got the CISO experience in Tampa Bay on March the 30th, where we're actually focusing on the recent SEC guidelines and the National Cybersecurity Strategy that came out a couple of months ago now. We've got Steve Hindle, a prominent local CISO, leading up a panel. And at the moment, I think we've got over 40 industry leaders registered from the local area. So if you are an industry leader and you'd like to come and share some knowledge with some other industry peers, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll put my LinkedIn profile on here now for you. Sorry, Ido, me rambling on.
No, that's okay. Actually, I use the time. I'd like to show you, this is a report from McKinsey. They actually, it's from last year, but this whole report, I really recommend reading this, speaks about the transition of the industry. And it speaks that they actually recommend, that was a year ago, that to move from a maturity-based approach, or what I call operational security, to a risk-based approach. And the next stage, in their opinion, is proactivity cybersecurity. Now, it does exactly speaks, in other words, the difference and the move from operational security to cybersecurity. So just to give this as a point of reference, just look for McKinsey risk-based approach report. It's a very good article. I recommend everyone to look at. In addition to that,
change the background. There we go. This should look better. There we go. We can see it now. Look.
Yeah, exactly. So what we see here actually is the risk. The idea really, there are three elements to CISOteria. One element is the security operations, where I manage processes, I manage the tasks, I manage the projects. So that's part of me being able to actually look at every task, at every project, every person, everyone reports. You can see we have tasks which are audit tasks, which is very critical to have audit tasks. And here are recurring activities, which are, for example, training that needs to be happening once in a while. So we have this, we have projects, we have all of the processes. That's the security operations. We have part of it also, we have playbooks, part of the system that we have playbooks that we can manage. That's part of that. And then we have the risk management. The risk management is our ability really to look at our risk, which this is the 63% here. That's our risk, that's our residual risk. And we want really to connect the residual risk to our day-to-day activities. So how do we do that? We map the business assets of the company, which is what we see on the right-hand side here. We have the data centers, the IT environment in which we have for the company data centers, and for each data center we have different layers of defense. Which layers of defense? Let's remember, they are not only products. They are products, they are procedures, and they are recurring activities. The combination of these three brings us a defense layer. And for each defense layers, for every data center, again, here we have the data center. For every data center, we have a defense layers, and the defense layers are actually, we watch and see the status of the products, of the procedures. So this way, the procedures are no more having dust, because if the procedures will not be followed with tasks and audit tasks, it will immediately imply the numbers on the top will be changed. So if we have a specific process, patch management, and the manual patch management, the example I gave in the beginning of the session, if we have a manual patch management that is required to be done once in 30 days, if this will not be conducted, the risk of the company will immediately go up. And once it is being conducted, the risk will go down. And once there is a new vulnerability that is shown, which needs to be dealt with a process, with a task, it immediately will imply your company score. And we do have here also all the information about the security products. So for example, here I can see all of the security products, and I can see exactly the implementation level of each security product. So I have here all the security technologies, and I can see implementation level. How do I watch the implementation level? By watching the processes. The focus is again on the processes. Again, think Salesforce CRM. We watch the processes, we watch the reporting of the people, we watch the auditors reporting, and the combination of all of these together gives us the full picture that we can watch and go over day by day. We have also here, for example, to show you regulations. So in this case, we have here, first of all, the policies. We have all the policies exactly like products. Policies have the same effect, actually even a more effect on the situation of our company, on the risk, on the business risk. So we can see here every procedure, what's the implementation level. We can see here some regulations. For example, this one is the GDPR, the local GDPR. So we can see here exactly what's the status. We can see all the law data in as part here. This is all the law and how we are comply with specifically the regulations. Again, it's all part of this same system. Last but not least is the risk management, which is, again, we look at the assets, we look at the processes, and we look at the risks. So we can identify what are the key risks for the company and what we should focus on and what less. That's kind of in a very natural kind of in 2 minutes kind of going over, unless there are specific questions.
I muted my microphone. There is a specific question, actually. I'll bring it up. So it's Corey. He understands that the intention is to help CISOs, but he wondered if there are or will be integrations with ERM, and what about GRC?
Yeah, actually, CISOteria is, in a way, an enterprise risk management solution. And I think that CISOs, that's exactly the point. And I think the point that has been mentioned is exactly correct. CISOs should be dealing with risk management solutions. They should be dealing with operations management of the security teams, with the GRC. That's exactly the point that, in my opinion, once this will get the right emphasis and will be connected to the management, then I think we will cross the chasm, as the saying from.
And I think I don't know if you had time to cover it all off in there, but what I was really impressed with is how you can measure and track each item that you've got. So you can assign it to different people within the organization. You can assign it to people outside of the organization, and all of it is trackable. And that was one of the most powerful parts for me.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I did not get into the details here, but exactly. You can assign any task to anyone within or internal or external of the organization. They can just implement it, and it will immediately imply the company risk. If it's a major task that is critical for the company, the risk will be reduced significantly. Or the other way.
Could I argue as well that this could be a really good way to encourage people within the organization to work together a little bit more when they can actually see what it is they're doing those different roles for and how it all links together and what it means as a whole? Or is that me just going off on a tangent?
No, it's a very good point. You know, the way I have, you know, a PowerPoint presentation that speaks about what I call the CISO weakest links, and there are two weakest points for CISOs. One is what I call downwards towards the security teams, and one is upwards towards the management.
Yeah.
The security teams, exactly as you pointed, what happens today is because there are no well-established processes that are enforced, what happens is that the CISOs, which are technical oriented, they have the responsibility but no authority.
Yeah.
That's something we have seen again and again. And what happens, they require the security team to do 1, 2, 3, and the security team has some other priorities they just don't care about.
Yeah,
they are busy. They do other stuff. They are understaffed in many cases. They just don't do it. So this way, it actually makes the CISO, you know, unable to really. He has the responsibility, but no authority. So how can we make ourselves in a better situation? So this is one weakest link. The second part is towards the management, the executive management language. You are unable because you speak technology to the management. Yeah. Now, once you close these two gaps with a product such as CISOteria, then it's closing, and now you start to work as a team. Because why? Initially, it's going to be a tough procedural pain in a way. Why it's a pain? Because what will happen when a company will start using something that really takes care of everything is that the risk of the company will suddenly go up, and the management will ask the CISO, why did the risk went up?
Because we're looking at everything now. That's why.
Exactly. And the team, the IT security team, did not do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So then the management of the company will go to the IT, to the CIO, to the IT manager and say, hey, why didn't you do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You say, why? Because I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the risk of the company. Go and do it right away, or you find your way outside of the company.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be painful. But once this is established, then it's a smooth process. Again, like Salesforce CRM. Today, companies that have Salesforce, initially it's tough. The first few months to deploy a CRM solution, it's tough.
It's the migration, it's the inputting of all the data. It is hard work, yeah.
Yes,
but worth it.
But once you are done with it, then you are in a smooth operation and you are in a much, much, much better position. And to my point of view, at that case, now you are really making cybersecurity a non-issue, and that's what we believe that Sysoteria can help with.
So can I ask a quick question? And again, I don't know the answer to this, but for organizations that haven't got a lot of resources but wanted to adopt this platform, does your business offer support with regards to the setup and integration of this?
Yes, absolutely. We do support that, and we are also open, to partners that, local partners that are able, we can train. The system is very easy to learn and study. It's a very short training, and it can be either our self-provide help or local company. It's not a major. It's not too difficult.
And so you're looking for potential reseller opportunities as well, then.
Absolutely. Resellers that can add value and can implement it and can support companies. Yes.
That reminds me, I need to sign mine, and I'll get that done as soon as I'm off this call. We're over the hour, Ido. Before we go, do you want to give everyone a bit of a teaser about what we're talking about in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, I was thinking, and again, I might change my mind in 2 weeks' time because everything is very dynamic, and I don't know what the SEC is coming up in the next 2 weeks. but my thinking is really to think how to build a powerful annual plan. What should be included in a work plan, that a security work plan for an organization? There are certain elements that you need to focus on. There are certain elements more important, less important. And what I think we should focus is on really how to build a strong security plan and how to watch it implemented. I think that's something that I've seen a lot of places where it lacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, Ido, I've learned lots again today, as always, when we have a conversation. I know from the comments in the chat that other people have as well. We have had another question come in. So, Corey, let me just get this answered before I wrap things up. You're just taking 2 lengths off my pool swim this afternoon now. It's have you ever made any integrations with strategy alignment solutions that implement and measure OKR, Hash Canary, EJ Cascade?
No, not with Sysoteria, not yet. We did integrate it with Monday, by the way. So in case you use Monday for project management, then it is. But no, with OKRs, we did not. But absolutely, it's a very good question, and we do plan to do so.
So you're looking at integrating this with and aligning with other solutions in the future as well?
Absolutely. Our focus is on security and helping companies reduce risk. That's where we want. I did not mention it is patent, by the way. It's a patent-based solution. But yes, absolutely. Any OKRs, any type of like Monday, any type of project and task management, you don't necessarily need to use Sysoteria as your task management. But Sysoteria needs to be able to know all of your tasks that they are being implemented.
Of course. Yeah. Ido, thank you so much. And just like to quickly say massive thank you to Corey, Jed, Chumeria. There's loads of you in there today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's really appreciated. If anyone is about tomorrow back in the studio, can't remember what time, so keep an eye out for my post on LinkedIn to see what time and when that is. But as I said earlier, thank you for tuning in. If anyone's in Florida next week and they want to come to a CISO leadership event, drop me a line. And Ido, you and I will speak soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.